Hello there, and welcome to the Play Out podcast with myself, Scott McLachlan. I'm again ably assisted by three great friends, Jamie, Phil, and Reece. How are we all, gentlemen? All right,
Good,
my love?
thank you.
Chipper.
Well, yeah, well, compared to the previous two pods, we've got a lot of good positivity to talk about. Well, that's the intention, so we'll see how it pans out. I mean, this one's slightly delayed due to Pompey having two consecutive games postponed, which presented us with not much to talk about on the football side. So we delayed it by a week, but we've had three games now since the last pod, so we can crack on. So after the weather cancellation of Blackburn and the power problems suffered at Fratton for the Millwall game, Pompey finally took to the pitch at Swansea and continued in the same form that had seen them get their first home win against Preston. A high-pressing game that Pompey had adopted so well against Preston paid off again when Murphy won the ball off his opposite fullback and then drove to the byline and crossed for Ritchie to stab the ball home from close range. Murphy then scored himself with some clever skill, lifting the ball over the defender and drove a first-time shot past the keeper to give Pompey a 2-0 lead just before half-time. However, Swansea hit back straight away, though, and a deep cross came off Ogilvie and stranded the keeper, so Pompey only led by one at half-time. It was one-way traffic in the second half, and an equaliser came after some good saves by Schmidt, one of which was absolutely world-class, and Pompey were fortunate not to go behind, with Swansea missing a couple of golden chances. Right at the death, Ogilvie got away from his marker and delivered a teasing cross that was on a plate for Sadie, but he missed the target from 6 yards out. In the end, most fans would have been pleased with the point, and it proved that Pompey were moving in the right direction. Next up was Bristol City at home, another mid-table team looking to break into the playoffs, but Pompey dominated the match and won quite easily in the end. Bishop continued his return from surgery to put in a man-of-the-match performance despite the conditions being very windy, with any ball in the air being unpredictable. Pompey had a corner cleared off the line from a pool shot, and then Pompey's pressing game once again produced the goods, with Murphy nicking the ball to Bishop, who scored at the second attempt. In the second half, Lang missed a one-on-one with the keeper before he soon made up for it by winning the ball off the defence again for Bishop to slide in Murphy to finish through the legs of the keeper. Lang then scored himself from a sublime cross by Murphy to seal the win and Pompey's best performance of the season. Just 3 days later, Pompey were again in home action and another mid-table team in Norwich came to Fratton. It was a bruising game with 6 bookings handed out in the first half, and Pompey had a shout for a penalty when Murphy was bundled over on the edge of the box, but it wasn't given. Both sides had few chances, and Pompey did have the ball in the net in the second half, but it was harshly cancelled out by the referee for interference by Ritchie on the Norwich keeper Gunn. Replays showed there was little wrong with it. In the end, Pompey gained another point and a clean sheet against a decent side and looked towards Friday for their third game in 6 days up at Derby. Pompey will go into that game with every confidence after a run of games that show they can match most in the Championship. So, as you were saying, very chipper feel. How do you make the 3 games, and particularly the continuation of the good form against Swansea?
Point of order, Scott. You said Norwich keeper Gunn. It should be Norwich keeper Scummer Gun.
Scummer Gun, of course.
I think
Sorry,
let's not forget that.
I'll try and edit that later. I'll just put Scummer in regularly, and then that'll cover it.
Thank you.
That's all right, no problem.
Sorry, what was the question?
Well, I'm glad my preamble didn't completely.
Can you go from the start? Obviously,
from the start.
No.
I'm not going to do that. No. My question posed to you was: how do you feel after the last 3 positive games, and also how do you sum up Swansea?
Well, chipper, definitely. I just think incredibly positive. Team seems to have an identity, which I think is really important. I think you can't understate the importance of Bishop being back. It just proves how head and shoulders he is above any other strikers in the club, and the fact that he allows us to play in a sort of slightly more expansive way. He pushes further up on the pitch, adds to the sort of press, and all very positive. I thought what I saw of the Norwich, Swansea. I wasn't at Swansea. Winger man was at Swansea. I sent him a message. Yep, I sent him a message at half time, and I said goal and assist for Murphy, having a good time in Wales, and his response was, "Yep, I'm watching his fullback killing us." Yeah. And then half an hour later, Swansea have changed tactics. It's all down the left as Murphy's on the right wing now. So ignoring that, no, I thought it was all very good. And I just think the beginning of the season, the thing I found was watching a couple of teams play and seeing the way that they just seemed to gel. They knew instinctively what each player was doing, and we just seemed to be running around with slightly aimlessly. And I think it's starting to come together, but particularly from sort of Swansea onwards, there's been this great understanding between the players. I think it's really helped. Yeah, feeling good. Not getting relegated. Everything I've said over the last few weeks, forget about it. It was all rubbish.
Well, Mr. Eisner was right, wasn't he?
Of course he was.
He was
not
right.
yet.
Well, okay, yeah, but he said period, Reece, and that ends all argument, as we all know.
In the words of Danny Baker, nothing can possibly go wrong now.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. What do you think, Jamie?
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it? It's great. Yeah, as everybody here knows, I quite like to have a heated debate on Facebook, and one of the questions I think was asked was, do we think Eisner will stump up the cash for a great escape? And my comment was, I just hope that this team has what it takes. The current team has what it takes to turn things around, because I don't think Eisner will stump up the cash. He might, his idea of stumping up the cash will be, all right, I'll bring a loan in, and or I'll spend, 130,000, and you should be lucky that I've spent, all that money on a new player for you. Yeah, so I think the squad has turned it around. I mean, you can't overstate Bishop. Yeah, I don't know. They're just the magic man's back, and so is the magic, and it's wonderful. Long may it continue.
Reece, so Swansea in particular,
Mm.
disappointing again to give away another 2-goal lead, which we've done a couple of times this season. Raced into a good performance, raced into a 2-0 lead, and unfortunately, obviously, that mistake from Ogilvie just before half time. But it was a much different performance in the second half. Swansea really, really upped their game and looks like one of these teams that could be just outside the playoffs. So that kind of showed that we, once a team really raises our game, we do struggle to hang on, and probably were very lucky to get a point in there. So, what did you think in Swansea in particular?
I mean, yeah, I watched the Swansea game, and I mean, I was just, as the others have said, it's like a new team has appeared in the last month or so. And I can only put it down to that the team have just finally got to grips with what is needed in the Championship, and we've just started to play this really high pressing game. We've dumped the kind of slow possession football that we had in League One, and players are beginning to find their feet. It's working. They know their roles. They're well organised, and it's amazing how confidence is such a big influence in how teams play. But Swansea, I mean, we were excellent. The only, as I said, the only downside was, we let slip a mistake. I've been having chats with people about should Schmidt have come for the ball, but I just don't. It was kind of going away from him. I just think it was too far out, and it was an unfortunate mistake. And I think it would have been a different game if we kept it 2-0 at half time, but those things happen. But I mean, Swansea have got some very, very good players, and cost a lot more than our players do. And yes, they had some really good chances. They scored 2, but as I said, Sadie had that easy-ish one at the end. But one thing that for me that's I think proving itself its worth is Schmidt. I think some of the saves he has been making have been game-saving, point-saving saves, where I think in the past you look at games at Stoke and also Burnley away when shots have come in. I've seen Norris rooted to the goal line and literally just slowly watch the ball go in the net past him. Whereas Schmidt, he doesn't come off his line too well, but he's made some amazing saves, and I think that certainly contributed to a much more a good point away. A team, I think they're going to be playoffs there and thereabouts.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about Schmidt. I mean, that save. I mean, I've watched it probably 30 or 40 times. I can't believe how he got to it. I mean, it was literally 7 yards, and he was on the line and going the wrong way, and he managed to just shove his arm out and lift it over the bar, a la Gordon Banks. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't diving like Banks, but the reactions were the not only to get his hand to it, but get it up and over the bar as well was an incredible save. But we talked about this in the pod before, haven't we? His reaction save seems to be kind of his real strength. He's not someone who really commands his box. A couple of times or a few times we've had corners swung in. He doesn't seem to dominate his box. So reaction save seems to be his particular, specialised skill. And we've seen 3 or 4 examples of that. And that, like I said, that one at Swansea, I can't believe it. Every time I watch it, I cannot believe he got it. It was amazing.
I'm still sniggering at you talking about Schmidt dominating someone's box.
Thank you for that.
Is there a new format where Scott introduces people? Because that seems to be so much better for me. Because then
I've been trying to do that, but there are going to be opportunities where you're going to have to fight amongst each other. But we'll see how we go on with that. I've been trying to do that a little bit more. So let's go to Bristol City then, which is by far and away our best performance of the season. Surprising how poor City were, but as you said, Reece, it's the high pressing game that seems to be a more direct and a very high pressing game. So we try and get the ball into the opposition's box or opposition's half as quickly as possible from our half, and then we try and, if we don't get it, we try and bully the team and get it off them. And it worked to an absolute T against Bristol City, Reece. So yeah, you summed that one up first.
Yeah, I think the concern is that when you're playing well, you just want that to continue. And with all the breaks we had, it was just like, oh God, are we going to be able to kind of continue off? And Bristol have spent a lot of money again, and we blew them off the park. I mean, that pressing game, it was just totally absent in the earlier part of the season. And yeah, I mean, we got the goal. Bishop has. It's hardly like he's been away, has it? I mean, it's almost been like a new signing for us. So the fact we got a clean sheet as well was really good thing. They had a couple of chances, but nothing blindingly obvious from what I can remember. But I mean, yeah, I mean that Murphy in that game. I mean that third goal, the ball across the box. I mean, what a cross that was! I mean, it just absolutely perfect. It just put it on a plate. But yeah, the first two closing down, mistakes made. They could have complained it could have been a foul or something, but no, I don't think so. And just game was out of sight by then. So long may it continue.
Yeah. So Jamie, so it was the number 16 at Bristol City, the centre back there. It says on my search it was a Rob Dickey. I can't remember if that was him who played, but he seemed to be really uncomfortable on the ball, and we just absolutely bullied him. And got the first 2 goals from direct pressing, nicking the ball, and then creating a shot and scoring 2 great goals. Although Bishop did have to have 2 goes at his first one, but as Phil said, this high pressing, this new way of playing seems to be really, really, really fits our players, doesn't it?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily even say it was new. We were playing with the confidence that we had last season again, and that's the change. You can't put it. It's not just Bishop, obviously. I mean, but maybe Bishop coming back was the catalyst. I think it's the fact that we've got past the playing all of the shit teams at the start of the season. We've got that out of the way. I can imagine psychologically.
When you say shit, you mean really, really good.
Sorry, yes, yeah, shit for us, yeah, shit for our points tally, yeah. So the good teams, yeah, we've got those out of the way now, and I imagine psychologically that was pressing on the players. We've got past. I think I said on one of the previous podcasts, it took Harry Redknapp 12 matches. I think it was 12. Yeah, 12 matches to get the squad gelling for the last great escape. I'm gonna have to have a quick look at the league table. How many matches? So we're on 17 matches. Is it 17? No, that's how many points we've got. How many have we played? Anyone know?
Yeah, we have
played 18.
Played 18. Yeah. So we're way past the 12-match mark now. So you'd hope that the team are gelling. They're playing week in, week out with each other, so they should start to know each other. I think the natural leaders, on the pitch are starting to shine as well. I mean, some of them, like Callum Lang, has been, he's shone all along. Obviously, Murphy, I know your mate doesn't like him.
He applauded the cross. He stood up and applauded the cross. So we put a little piece of paper in the back of his hood that said, "I love Josh Murphy." Has
he found it yet?
When he got home, yeah.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, and I just think it's starting to come together. And I must admit, I hadn't looked at the league table. I think I just didn't want to, I didn't want to. So I don't want to look at the league table, see it's bottom of the league, and so haven't been paying attention to it. I haven't been looking at the teams around us, and I was really quite surprised that we even had 17 points by now, and to have 17, we can't have played that badly. I know all of us have had a moan. I think everybody's done quite right, quite rightly so, that we haven't been playing well. But I mean, we've got 17 points now, and I was just really surprised that some of the other teams like around us, like Cardiff and Hull, these people are spending money. So it's just given me great hope that there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel, and let's hope old man Arsenal is right. Period.
Absolutely. Phil?
Yeah, I think one of the big things from Bristol City for me, it was the rebirth of Regan Poole. It was like watching Regan Poole from last season. I think in the first half, I think it was, he put in two absolutely crunching tackles where he slid in, ball first, man second, and it was like, yes, that's what you want. And from that, he just seemed to grow and grow and grow. He seemed to have more confidence on the ball. He seemed to have more time on the ball, and I think good players are able to sort of give that illusion that they're that they have so much more time, and I think that was a major factor in the Bristol City game. And I think, as Reece said, Bristol City had a much vaunted attack, and they came into that game, and we made them look like also rans. We really did.
Yes, talking to the formation. Sorry, Reece, I can bring you in a second. Talking about the formation, the Bishop returning has allowed him to marry Bishop and Lang in that pressing four. And also, we said on the previous pod about Richie coming back and his work effort and ethic, and Murphy's return to form as well, where he seems to have much more confidence because he seems to be getting on the ball a lot more and making things happen. Where for maybe 4 or 5 games he didn't seem to be able to make anything happen and really struggled. So, and I think that goal away at Hull gave him the singular confidence. He's been really good since then, and the team have been really, really good since that draw against Hull, where we managed to turn things around in the second half, and we haven't looked back since, really. But the last 3 games against teams that were in 9th, 10th, and 11th, they're pretty good championship teams. They're teams that expect to be in the top half, maybe not challenging for the top 6, but they expect to be in the top half and outside that playoff picture. So, to get 5 points off of those 3 teams is pretty impressive, to be honest. The problem is, I think, obviously, as we might talk about later, is the lack of depth and what's going to happen in January, where we might have to do it. But if we go on to Reece, what did you wanted to speak there for a second? Do you want to say what you want before we go on to Norwich?
Yeah, just a short thing, which I've just suddenly remembered. Bristol City annihilated Plymouth 4-0 about 4 days before they played us, and then they go and lose 3-0. I mean, I think is it the opposition was poor, we were good? I think we say we were just so good, and that's one thing I didn't realise, but as Phil mentioned, Paul as that game was great, and the first half against Norwich was equally as good.
I think you're right about these sort of topsy-turvy results as well, because you look at Preston are up to 14th, and we played them. They look like an absolutely shocking team. And I think they drew 4 games. Was it 4 in a row they drew? Suddenly they're in 14th place. And then Stoke, who obviously
they've only won 4
us.
games. They've only won 4 games and drawn 10. So they're hardly they're hardly any quality, really.
No, and Stoke, who absolutely spanked us, haven't won in the last 6 matches, and yeah, it's a mental league.
We could go above Stoke if we win our games in hand.
Yes.
Well, what's crucial, I think, is our goal difference is currently -9. So if you take out the six goals we conceded against Stoke, which was an anomaly, then that it's very close to parity, and that's going to be key, because that shows that you're if you're not conceding goals, because we managed to score goals. We've got 21 goals out of 18 games, and that's the highest up until Derby in 17th. So if we'd have managed to sort our defence out a few games earlier, then I'm sure we would be up in mid-table, and I'm sure that's where we'll end up over the Christmas period, as long as we don't have our usual dodgy Christmas and New Year, because we've got some winnable games coming up. But if you go on to Norwich again, they were scoring goals for fun, but they seem to also concede them. So they've scored 35 goals, but also conceded 30. Which is the same as us at Cardiff and Oxford. And looking at the way they played on Tuesday night. I found it really odd. They were playing, so they obviously are disciples of this playing out from the back. So they spent ages, didn't they, with the ball at the goalkeeper's feet when he was deciding who it was going to pass to. And I think they only got out 2 or 3 times from our press. For 90 minutes, they continued to do it, even though it wasn't working. And I thought, I don't understand it. And I was out on Saturday night with some friends, and one of them is a Scummer fan, and he's pretty down and doesn't really know what Martin's doing. And we were discussing about but we were discussing particularly how about they play and how he's sticking to his principles, even though they're going to probably go down with the lowest points total. And I was saying to him, but that's insane. Why would you stick to your principles if they don't work, no matter who you're managing? And it seems as if Norwich seemed to be that kind of team as well. They didn't try and do anything different against us when they were playing, when they had the ball at their goalkeeper's feet or their defender's feet. Because clearly what they were doing, we were just mopping it up. Every time they played it out to sites, Devlin just beat him in the air or beat him on the ground. He got no change out of him at all. I mean, it wasn't the greatest of games, was it?
I thought for a 0-0, it was pretty entertaining. I really actually enjoyed it. I thought it was a good under the lights sort of championship game where we can complain about some of the physicality, but I just thought it was one of those games that you love to. It would have been nicer if we won. It's one of those games that you love to watch, where no quarter given, as they say. Everything was sort of full blooded.
It was very competitive, but not too good on quality compared to what we'd seen in the previous couple of games. So I'll agree there.
It was nerve-wracking. I was on the edge of my seat. The wife was trying to get my attention towards the end of and I had to give her the "fuck off, there's 3 minutes left, love," because it was I was there on the edge of my seat, and it could have gone either way as well. There was they were pressing on us in our box, and we were doing the same. And I did think this, and I was hoping for one of it. Again, it was another reminder of last season, and the squad. More and more with each preceding game are reminding me of how they were playing last season, and I thought we could get one of our famous last minute winners here, and it was, and so I agree with Phil. I really enjoyed the game. Yeah, it was good even for a 0-0.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I think the difference between Norwich playing out the back versus the Scummers is that Norwich didn't get caught with it. They seemed really confident on the ball. We didn't nick anything off them. Yes, when they hoofed it, it didn't amount to much, but that to me they seem really confident. But they've spent absolute shed loads, haven't they? I mean, they got Ashley Barnes up front. Did they pay 8 million or something for him which is probably our entire squad? But I think I think Norwich are actually
over the past 4 years.
Yeah. But I thought Norwich actually were probably one of the better teams I've seen, probably equally as good as Sheffield Wednesday. But they came up against a different team this time, and Ogilvie was pretty solid. I say Devlin was really good. The centre backs were really good. Even McIntyre looked really good in that second half. Hack, who I thought was a bit past it at Swansea, had 2 absolute blinders, and Schmidt didn't really have much to do. They passed it around a lot, and they got into some half decent positions, but couldn't finish it off. But I thought draw was a fair result, but I would have taken a point at home, considering how much they've spent and kind of where they are in the league.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I said before, we played 3 teams who are, they're currently 9th, 10th, and 11th. Swansea 9th, Norwich 10th, Bristol City in 11th. And if we're matching and more than matching teams of that level, that bodes really well for the rest of the season.
You're saying we're in a shout for the playoffs, are you, Scott?
Well,
is
no,
that what you're saying?
Not from this position, Phil. But if we were on 20 points now, you wouldn't say no, would you? No. I think if you look at it, Preston, as you said earlier, Preston in 14th on only 22 points. We'd be above them with our game in hands. And that's scary. You're looking upwards then, aren't you? And you're going, oh my God, we might actually fall into the Premiership or something stupid. So it's it is a really topsy turvy season. But as you said, Jamie, it hasn't been very nice looking at tables over the last 5, 6, 7 weeks, because it did look very dire for us, and we weren't playing very well. And then obviously we've managed to really turn it around in the last 5 or 6 games.
Something Reece just said as well reminded me. Did Norwich even watch Pompey's last game? Did they not? They kept, like you're saying, they kept on passing it. I thought we were going to do the same thing again. I thought we were going to steal the ball off them and put it in the back of the net again. It was almost like they hadn't done their homework on us. And yeah.
But that's the thing. That's what I was trying to say earlier. It's like, surely you look at the way an opposition team plays and you adapt. But there seems to be this modern football thing where it's the Ange Postecoglou. You know, I don't care that you don't like the way I play, and I know my teams lose games, but I'm going to play this way until I get the sack. And it's like, okay, fine, but you know, I can't imagine Pep Guardiola thinking that. He'd look at it like a Rubik's cube and try and sort it out and solve it and go, right, okay, that's not quite working. I'm going to put that over there and that over there, and then we'll look at the weaknesses of the teams. So yeah, you're right, Jamie. It was 90 minutes of them trying to do something that they weren't achieving, and you know it was good for us obviously because they didn't threaten very often. But you know, because you know their front three have scored a hatful of goals, but they had maybe 2 or 3 chances at best. And talking about Schmidt again, one thing I really like about him is that I've got so much confidence when a shot comes in. Whereas I probably didn't have that with Norwich. If a shot comes in from 20, 30 yards away, I know Schmidt's going to get his hands on it. You know, unless it's an absolute worldie top bins, I think that Schmidt has got the ability to just, pluck it out of the air and go, right, fine, okay, you can try again next time. And that confidence, I think, is hopefully gone through the team as well.
200 to 1, Phil. I've just put a fiver on it. Pompey to finish in the top 6.
Oh, well on.
How much? 200 to 1?
200 to 1, yeah. I saw that, I thought, right.
I'll tell you
fiver on
what,
that.
you bang the form table in over the last 5 games, I bet you if we continue that, we will not be far off the playoffs.
No, well, it's 2 points a game, isn't it? And that is well, over the course of a season, that gives you how many points is that? 48 times 2 is a lot. So it's 46 times 2 is a lot. It's 92 points, isn't it? So it's we even if we do 1.5 points for the rest of the season, that keeps us out of relegation trouble, no problem. So very encouraging. So I was talking about McIntyre. The guy cannot stop getting injured, can he? He was only on the pitch for about 4 or 5 minutes, and he went in for a challenge, and then started spilling half his weight in blood all over his shirt and shorts, and had to change them over on the touchline because he was obviously covered in blood.
I think he hit Pack, didn't he? I don't think it was an actual injury, as in going one of their players. Didn't Pack hit him or something?
I don't know.
I think someone hit him, and his face went into either the back of Pack's. I think it was the back of Pack's head or the back of someone's head,
and clearly just exploded because there was blood everywhere.
But he had a really good game. He had a really good half, rather. He had a really good half compared to what he has been like before.
No, yeah, you're spot on with it. Hopefully the Paul's not injured, or whether it was a case of he got a yellow card.
No,
what happened?
He definitely, literally just before half time, I just saw it. He went in for a challenge. It might have been that one over on the side of the south stand where he did that absolute belting, flying tackle. Got the ball, got up, and as soon as he got up, I just saw him. He put his hand on his back of his right hamstring, and I went, "Uh-oh!" And apparently, it was a precautionary substitute.
Yeah, they said it was precautionary because it was apparently when he had the operation on his knee, they took some cartilage or some tendon out of his hamstring and put it. He's like Bionic Man, and it was that particular thing that he felt, and I think he's touch and go for tomorrow night now.
Okay, fine. Well, I was just going to say how we feeling about Derby. So Moxon came in and Lane came in on Tuesday. I thought pretty decent games. I thought Moxon was a little bit off the pace for the first 20 minutes, but sort of grew into the game and had a very, very decent shot in that second half that was well saved. So I'm guessing that Lang and Dazelle will be back in for tomorrow night's game. How do we feel about Derby? They're not doing very well either.
And their fans aren't happy as well, which is always a good thing. Unhappy fans at home, that's something to exploit, isn't it?
Yeah, they've not won in 6 either. Yeah, so I'm hoping we can nick a win. I mean, that would be fantastic. That would put us on 20 points and right behind that mid-table pack.
It's cheeky, but whilst I was putting that fiver on, I've just noticed it was 750 to 1 for Pompey to get promoted. So I've just put a fiver on that as well for the hell of it. 3 points against Derby. Come on, Pompey.
Blimey, yeah. Well, definitely gonna be a night out on you, Jamie, if that happens.
Yeah. Deal. Milky bars will be on me.
Absolutely.
I think Derby. The only thing I'm just unhappy about is how quickly it's come around.
Yeah.
I get you. I thought it was Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, not Saturday, Tuesday, and Friday. But I guess the joys of TV. Is that why it's been moved? But
yeah, it's a Sky
it's
Plus game.
a good time to play them. It's just, I mean, that's the thing with the press. You're exerting a lot of energy, or are you just getting fitter and fitter and fitter? So it's going to be one of those games where you get a goal in front, crowd will turn, and you're kind of halfway there. But you've got to say, on form, people won't want to play us at the moment.
I think
No,
Lang's silly booking might be a blessing in disguise, because he'll be fresh for this game. He's going to be absolutely key for it.
Yeah.
yeah. And we don't play until the following Saturday before Christmas, do we? So we get a really good rest before we've got Coventry at home. So, the guys have just got to run through one more wall for Mousinho, and then they can put their feet up for a couple of days. But yeah, the Dazelle and Lang cards will give them a little bit of a break. I mean, I'd be absolutely amazed if Richie and Murphy managed to put in the same sort of performance again. After 3 matches in 6 days. But I certainly wouldn't put it past Richie. He seems to be on top of his game at the moment after a slow start, as we mentioned before. He seems, and you probably can't hear him from where you are in the Fratton Phil, but he's barking all the time. He's one of these players. I think you mentioned it on the last pod when you saw your Marlon Pack interview, where he said that Matt Ritchie's the one that's doing all the shouting and the organising. He is just constantly going rat 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 rat,
Yeah,
and all over the pitch. And on Tuesday night, because the crowd was a bit more quieter than it was on a Saturday, you could hear him far more audibly than you could.
you can
Any
hear
other
him in
time.
the back where I am, back row
Well,
of the
there you go
Fratnings.
then.
You can
Well, there
definitely
you
hear
go
him.
then.
Yeah.
So it's what you said before, wasn't it? He seems to be that elder statesman, the one that's coming in with the experience and the quality that he's played, quite a high level for most of his career, and he seems to be, making a real difference in the organisation of that, that front and that pressing, and I think we said it before as well, really helping out Devlin with his new role at right back. So it's
I mean,
all looking good.
I don't mind. I mean, I sort of questioned. I remember in an earlier pod, I sort of questioned his signings. Like, why did we sign Richie? And it's becoming very apparent why we're signing. It's taken a while to get to where he is, and maybe it's just the fact that he's not played that much football over the last few years. But yeah, it just looks like a player reborn.
He's making
Yeah.
up for it now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to have to.
Against Norwich, I mean, there was in the second half there was some play where he was on the right hand side, and Bishop made a run and he just jinked the ball. He made this amazing ball. It's a little dink like the little like 7-iron over 2 defenders right in front of Bishop, and he just squared it, and it was about a yard in front of Murphy. He was about to tap it in, but the ball was unbelievable. That is Premiership quality. It was absolutely awesome. It's just a shame it didn't lead to a goal.
It's great vision. Well, we also had that last minute cross that I think it was Murphy who put it right on the top of Swanson's head, and then the Norwich defender teleported from somewhere and just managed to knock it out for a corner. I could just still see Zach's face now. He was literally like that. I'm going to head this in, and then all of a sudden, whoosh! It was away from him.
He was gutted, wasn't he?
I mean, it hung in the air quite a bit, but if the defender was a yard or two short, he definitely would have. I'm sure he would have scored it. It looked like a really golden opportunity, but there we go.
And we certainly didn't get the rub of the green with decisions. I thought it was a clear penalty on Murphy. It was anywhere else on the pitch. There's a cliche. Anywhere else on the pitch, ref would have blown for that. And I couldn't see what was wrong with Ogilvy's goal either.
No, not at all. Not at all.
The players didn't protest though, did they? That's the odd thing. Everyone just ran back to their positions without a murmur. But you saw from the replay that Richie, he did back in, but Gunn gave him a hefty shove out the way and then flapped the ball. It was Scummergun. Sorry, I'll qualify that again. Scummergun gave him a hefty shove, but that's because he was concentrating on Richie too much. He then flapped the ball.
But you look at games all week, and the goalkeepers get bundled into, and they're meant to be holding their ground. So I mean, it wasn't like a running jump or anything like that. It was a really, really mild one. But the ref in the first half was a bit all over the place, wasn't he? I mean, it was some bizarre decisions. I mean, yeah, Potts probably deserved to get a yellow card, but I think he had 6 or 7 yellows, wasn't it, in the first half? But then, I mean, it all calmed down after that. But Yeah, it's disappointing. I thought
I've noticed Potts likes to do that sort of slide with the foot up slightly, and he's going to get sent off this season, isn't he?
Yeah, it looked bad from where we were in the Fratton end, and
Yeah.
also the ref had blown as well, hadn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Utterly
Yeah,
needless.
it did look like he was in trouble a second, but then you equal that out with that guy's clothesline on Lang when he was trying to run down and chase the
Oh,
the
yeah.
ball through to the goalkeeper. The guy just stepped out of nowhere and went, "You're going on the floor, mate." Luckily for the defender or not, he didn't have his arms out. It was just a barge, so the referee couldn't send him off. But that's a professional challenge, isn't it? It wasn't denying a goal scoring opportunity, but if a player was running through and he'd done that, if Lang had been the other side of him and he'd done that, he would have been off, surely.
I mean, the ball got lumped, and you could see that that their player was not watching the ball. He was
No.
it was Lane, wasn't it? Lane was running onto it, and he just watched him, and then just kind of did a sidestep and poof, went straight into him.
So Lane is fairly flimsy. He's a young lad, and he is fairly flimsy. And when I watched that, I thought he played for that. I thought, I think he could have got around him had he wanted to, but he thought, no, I'm going to run into this guy and try and get a foul here. That was what I thought when I watched it.
Yeah. Well,
Just
it was just a symptom that was symptomatic of Norwich's play throughout the whole game. They seemed to be a pretty brutal team, didn't they?
yeah, very physical, very physical. But I had no problem with that. I didn't think they were overly physical. I just thought they got away with stuff that they should have been pulled up on a bit too often. Just going back to Potts, by the way, I had to get this in. A friend of mine who was at the Swansea game had said on our WhatsApp group about how at Swansea Potts didn't really get into the game, and he referred to him as Anonymous Potts, who he thought made him sound like a Victorian adventurer.
Or deepest, darkest
The
South
Adventures of
Wales.
Anonymous Potts.
Around the world in 90 minutes with Anonymous
Yeah.
Potts.
Yeah, very good.
That's a podcast there in the
Right.
in the making as a one-off.
Yeah.
There's got to be a pun in there about Passepartout as well, but I can't think of it off the top of my head either.
Pass to number 3.
Very good, very good. So Derby, we're all feeling positive because this is the positive pod. This is we've had a few where we've been pretty disgruntled, but this one, we're all japes and jollity today, so it's all good. I did send you all a message earlier that I'd like to introduce something called Player of the Pod. So that's obviously you bigging up a player from the last however many games it is since we did the last pod, 3 in this case. So who would like to go first, please?
Me, miss. Me,
Go
miss.
on then, Reece, you go first.
Well, just because, luckily, I think there are certainly 3 or 4. I think you could probably stand out. For me, Murphy. I mean, he's hit form. He's scoring goals. He's making goals. He just looks like the player that we signed, and I think he just looks really, really dangerous whenever he gets the ball down the left. And long may that continue.
Yep, cool. Phil, you go next.
I asked my kids that question. They both said Murphy. And my son was saying, well, maybe Murphy, maybe Schmidt. But yeah, they were both going. I don't know whether that's just because they want to wind up the winger man. But for me,
Probably.
it's Terry Devlin. I'm a fully paid up member of the Terry Devlin fan club. I think if at any point before the season started, you were going to say that we would see Terry Devlin put in man of the match performances at right back, I think, checking what you're smoking. But it's and I thought as someone touched on it earlier, I think the Norwich game, he was up against Borja Sainz, who's the top scorer in the league, and he didn't get a sniff. And I thought the fact that Devlin just played out of his skin in a role that he's not particularly familiar with, a level he's not familiar with, and I just think there's big things to come for that young man.
Yeah, definitely agree. Jamie?
There's a few, and I feel mean not mentioning the others. And
leave me one.
Yeah, no, I will. I'm not going to mention them. And, because they're all listening. I'm just making sure that they know that just because they're not getting mentioned doesn't mean that we are, absolutely ecstatic with them. And I think there's like 7. There's almost like 7 I could probably name, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go with the left field one, and I didn't think anyone else would pick this, but for me, Conor Ogilvie. I was a massive fan of his last season. I've always liked him. I've always thought he was a really good player. He had a really shocking start to the season. He really did. You know, even I had a moan about him. But the last few games, he's just come back to life. He's found his form again. I don't know why. I don't know where it's come from. But I'm absolutely delighted. And that's all I'm going to pick for this week, Connor. Well done, chap.
Cool. Well, I'll pick mine, and then you can perhaps name check a couple of your
Right.
other ones,
Yeah,
just so
yeah.
we didn't leave them out. So I'm going to go for Schmidt because, as I said earlier, I think it was all a bit weird that we bought another really top goalkeeper because we all thought that Norris was our number one. And obviously, because of where he'd come from, no one really had much knowledge about him from the Austrian First Division. So, but he's just been, after the first couple of games where he's obviously had to try and deal with a defence which was absolutely shot in confidence, I think that all collectively the defence has really got together and produced some outstanding performances. And like I said earlier, every time there's a shot that comes in from the opposition, I'm not worried too much. Because I think that he's after some of the reaction saves that we've seen from close quarters, anything for 20, 30 yards, that's not going to beat him. You can shoot from there all day, and it's not going to get past him. So I'm really pleased for him. I'm really pleased for the management team that brought him in because it's clearly working. His kicking still gives me the itch. But that's just purely because as we said earlier, we've moved more to a bit more of a direct, high pressure, a top third playing. We don't try and play the ball through midfield. We tend to get it high and wide to our wingers, or Bishop up front. And if we do lose it up there, we try and we're all over them like a cheap suit to try and get it back. So my pick is Schmidt. So do you want to name a couple of your other favourites, Jamie?
So all three of the ones you've mentioned were also in my mind and would have been mentioned. I think probably up there with Murphy for player of the season is also Callum Lang so far. I think he's been absolutely superb. And, I'm delighted we've signed him. Matt Ritchie, absolute superb turnaround. He's been amazing. I mentioned him earlier as well. Regan Paul, he's starting to shine again. He's come back. And obviously, the Magic Man himself, is even just his presence on the pitch, it's a cliche, but I think we're doing fantastic because he's back.
Well, I think just on Bishop as well, one thing I wanted to mention for the Bristol City game, where did all these flicks come from? Where did all this, flicking it through his legs to a winger, or these first time passes out? I don't remember him doing that last season.
Maybe,
What's happened?
right? Hear me out here, right?
Yeah,
Maybe when he had his operation, they think of all those 80s horror films we used to watch. Yeah,
yeah.
they've put Messi's heart inside him, right?
Or a blood transfusion from Thierry
Yeah,
Henry.
yeah. the ghost of Robert Prosonecki's
I was
lung or
expecting
something.
him to have his hold up play, but some of the flicks he was doing I was just like, oh, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Yeah,
I think
so
when he was
absolutely brilliant.
convalescing, he's just been playing FIFA all day.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, he's learnt all the tricks off that rather than the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, thank you, gentlemen. Where have those 45 minutes gone already? I don't know where that's gone. It's been great talking to you again. I will hope to. So let's. We've covered Derby. Do you think we'll also get a win against Coventry a week on Saturday?
One of my clients at work is a Coventry fan, and
Right.
firstly, he said they have to be referred to legally now as Frank Lampard's Coventry, because he said since Frank
Oh, of
Lampard's
course.
taken over, all he hears is Frank Lampard's Coventry.
Right. Okay.
I think we'll beat them.
Yeah.
I think deep down inside, he thinks we'll beat them as well.
Well, they've had one win in 6, so they're not as bad as some of the other teams we've mentioned. The Derbys, the Stokes, and all, Stokes as well. But at home, I think we can beat anyone. To be honest, really, at the moment, if we don't suffer any injuries in the next week or so, and we manage to keep the same 11 that have been playing in the last 3 or 4 games, then I think we can. I genuinely think we can beat anyone. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Interesting about Frank Lampard, isn't it? It's Plymouth haven't won since they beat us and conceded a truck full of goals. So having that ex-England superstar on your side is not necessarily always a good thing, is it?
I always feel mean when I bring this up, but Wayne Rooney was tabloid famous for being a bit thick. Don't want to be mean.
He did make some poor choices.
Right, cracking, amazing, talented, superb footballer, no doubt in my mind, but not the sharpest tool in the box. If you own a club, and you've got to have some, to me, to have the money to own a football club, you've got to have some sort of brain yourself. why are these clubs hiring Wayne Rooney to manage the squad? I just don't understand, and I think it's hilarious to watch. So sorry, Plymouth fans, if you're
spending businessmen going into football. There are stories across especially for the Premiership, littered of just mad decisions, and it's emotion, isn't it? And
I guess.
this is why I just like the Eisners. They're just very quiet and they just get on with things in the background. I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, same with Lampard. Great players don't automatically make great coaches, and yeah, but Super Mike Phelan's on his way, so that'll sort Plymouth out. So we'll see, but.
Well, I'm sure the Isers are making good decisions because they've got people like Phil breathing down their neck. You see,
Wow,
that's what it is.
And me
Are
online.
you sure you want to do that, Mr. Eisner? Are you absolutely sure? You sure you want to rethink that? So yeah, all right. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. A great pod again, once again, and I probably won't speak to you or see you before Christmas. Maybe one or two of you on the Saturday. Who knows? Oh yeah, sorry, Jamie. I forgot I'm coming for dinner on Saturday, aren't I? Sorry,
That's
I forgot
charming.
about that.
I like
Oh,
his
are
calendar.
you ordering in or are you going to cook?
I'm thinking of cooking actually.
Okay,
Yeah, I might
I'll
treat you
make
to
sure I have a big lunch then.
treat you to a bit of my meat.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. I think that's the first time I've ever had some of your meat, but there we go. Will it be a tomahawk?
No, so I've got some I've got some joints in, and I'm thinking of doing a practice for Christmas dinner. So
Oh, well, that
maybe
sounds
might
marvellous.
be a
I don't.
roast, mate. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't mind being your guinea pig. Thank you very much. Well, Phil and Reece, maybe I may see you at the Coventry game. We'll not, but if not, I wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas, and I hope you have lots of fun with your families. And we'll try and squeeze a pod in before New Year. But if we don't, we'll our listeners will only hear us again in the New Year in 2025. So I wish you all of you out there a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and play up Pompey.